Spoiler warning. If you haven't watched the show that we are discussing today and want to avoid spoilers, stop right there. Go binge and come on back. If you have or don't mind spoilers, sit back with your favorite drink and enjoy.
All right.
Remember what we're talking about now?
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, anyways, today we are. So this is our first episode, our first podcast, video podcast, whatever it is. Our first discussion about Kdramas, and that is the title of our show is going to be called Coffee and Dramas. So we're going to have a nice cup of coffee, which we don't have at the moment, but we will get to that. And we'll be discussing K-dramas, more in line with more in depth. So a lot of reviews like to just kind of, oh, it's a good show, it's a good story, great acting. We know it's great. That's we know it's going to be good. Depending on, okay, well, some of them aren't that greatest sometimes, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth where we will talk about the different themes in the shows and kind of correlate them to real life situations, not just our personal situations, but in general, right? And kind of relate the shows and these dramas to real life, and how you can actually, even though they are very melodramatic, which is the Korean style, you can pull a lot out of it. You can pull a lot of, because the themes that are in the shows, they tend to be very not in your face, but they like to show it you get a message across.
Life lesson.
Kind of thing, yeah. It's like when you're watching Power Rangers as kids, the whole friggin' theme of the show, you know, at the beginning of the show, because whoever's in trouble will be like, oh my God, right? So today we're going to be discussing the beauty inside with Lee Min-ki and Seo Hyun-Jin. This focuses on changes. The whole theme of the entire show is about changes. So it's the main character played by Seo Hyun-Jin. She changes into a different person entirely once a month for about a week, which is kind of funny, right? The time of the month kind of thing.
Switched it up for her.
Yeah, right? It's kind of odd, but again, this is based on a movie, a Korean movie, which the Korean movie is based on I think it's an American or European movie. That again, there was another American movie that came out a couple years ago that was very similar to it as well. So it's a theme that's reoccurring in life in general. So it's kind of like not necessarily bad, not necessarily good. It's something that we encounter on a daily basis, right? Well, not in the sense of what she goes through in the show, but you know, on a similar standpoint, changes at work, changes at home, changes in your daily routine. You know what I mean? Like there's always constant change, and that's how life works, right?
Guarantee that everything will change.
Exactly. That's like for sure, right? 100%. And Lee Min-ki's character is a very interesting character because he's kind of the opposite, whereas her character is very I don't want to say outspoken, very opinionated, very, very straightforward, likes to voice. She has a voice.
Doesn't hold back.
Exactly. And whereas he doesn't hold back, but very toned down, very puts that front up, because his I don't want to say issue. He gets into an accident a few years prior to where we meet him in the show, and he gets forgot the technical term for it, but he cannot recognize faces. And this is not a fake thing. This is a real people, like real celebrities. I was reading one one known person would be Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple. He has that problem as well, and this is something that reading on it, I'm not 100% sure if it's curable or not. But what they really did well with the show is he he really picked out details. He was very detail oriented at that point, and that's what really made him very cold and very like intimidating, whereas he was so focused on trying to figure out exactly. So that's the kind of like the opposite of the characters. But again, it all falls back to changes, right? Whereas she's afraid of change, right? And so is he, because if she's constantly changing every month, whereas he doesn't want people to change, right? Because as soon as he figures out who's who,
he likes to keep that in mind, like every single time.
Exactly, right. And that's something that we have to deal with on a daily basis, especially with the way our society is working, where everything's becoming more automated. A lot of people are either losing jobs or shifting their exactly in a different direction because, you know what I mean, self checkouts, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Everything's being done online, especially during this pandemic. Everything's done online. Everything's kind of, you know, self-service. Everything is dropped at your door kind of thing, right? So a lot of this especially during this pandemic, everything's changed, right? You're not walking around freely anymore. You're walking around with a mask on. You're walking, 6 feet away from other people. You're not hugging your friend that you haven't seen in 10 years out in public anymore. You're, air high fives from fucking 6 feet away. Excuse my language. I'll bleep that out later. Don't worry. But so it's a constant thing. I know I went through that working in my last job where we had a whole different system coming in. Actually, a couple times we did it. We had a whole new system. So working in the library, we had a whole new checkout system at one point. A couple 2-3 years working into the library, and then a few more years down the road we had a whole new automated system of circulation system of so that was a lot of change, right? That was a lot of I don't want to say older generation, because it's not just the older generation that doesn't like change. Everybody doesn't like change. You know what I mean? From kids, like our kid doesn't like, he has to go back to school soon now that he's doing homeschooling. By next semester, next year, he's going to be going back to school, and that's going to be a big change, and he's not going to like that. Now being able to be on his computer 24/7, right? So it's everybody is affected by it differently, but it's not a generation thing. This is people stuck in their ways, whether you're old or young. You know what I mean? It's people stuck in their ways that are so comfortable in that spot, right? In their bubble. Yeah.
So going back to the show, what was your first opinion? Like, what did you think about it when you first started watching it? Like, did you understand what was going on? Because I remember the opening scene was the main actress getting an award.
That's right.
And all of a sudden she knew she was about to change, so she started running off.
Yeah.
And just causing more drama for herself.
Yeah.
So what do you... And then in the truck, she was someone else.
Yeah, that was good.
Like, what did you think was going on, or what happened?
That was an interesting thing, right? That was... because it reminded me when she when she changed, it reminded me of an American movie that we watched a couple years ago, where the soul would be in a different body every day. And so I thought maybe she was changing into somebody else, but later on it turns out she's a completely different person entirely, right? And that was an interesting thing. My first impression was it caught my attention. That's the big thing. It's like it was a little different, right? Especially with the other shows. Like, I haven't seen anything that's quite similar to it yet in the K-drama verse. Even in American shows like North American shows that I've watched, nothing really similar, I want to say. So it was really interesting. It took me time to get to watch it, because I started watching it, and then I didn't get through the first episode the first time. And I can't remember exactly why, but it might have been because I was watching other things as well. A lot of other shows were happening at the same time as this one. This is from, I think it's from 2018 or 2017. 2018, yeah. So 2 years ago. Yeah. There was a lot of shows in 2018. Oh man.
So what made you come back to it? So since it came out in 2018, that's pretty much 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So what made you come back to it now?
Funny, I wanted to see more of Lee Min-ki. I wanted to see more of him, because I watched, what did we watch? We watched, oh my God, no. I can't remember what he was. I watched him, I think he cameoed, that's right. So he cameoed in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim? Yeah. As Kim Mi-so's dad, younger. And because I remember seeing a clip when I started watching the show, when I started watching the first episode, he was very stone-faced, he's very abrupt, and I stopped maybe, honestly, halfway through the episode. But when I saw him in that, I was kind of like, whoa. So maybe he what's the difference? Yeah, you know what I mean? Because he was like, in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, he was like a rocker kind of like singer. He really wanted to do that, but he was very enthusiastic in the show, right? So I was like, oh, okay. So I went back and I started watching the show, and then I stopped again, because you wanted to watch it, because you actually started watching it when I was rewatching it, right? So then we rewatched it together, and that was good. That was interesting. It was a great show. It was really good. It was really good. It was really, really, really good. Really good. And obviously there's always something that's kind of annoying in some shows, but this show was really great because actually her friend, oh my God, what's his name? He does all his, oh my God, what's his name again? Oh yeah, Han Se-Kye. I always mix him up with An So-hyun. Sorry, he's the one that's from Toronto. Not him though. So he wants to be a priest. Yeah. Right? It's such a really
especially for like someone in the Korean background.
Right? Yeah. Like, even though like there's a lot of Christians and Catholics in Korea, it's just a random thing, especially like in K-dramas. You don't. They always do the random stuff, which is exactly why I love watching these shows, is because it's completely out of the box. But what's amazing, it was just so random. Yeah. And so it was interesting to see how the parents reacted to it. And I feel like, coming from, my parents are Muslim, so I think they would react the same way their parents reacted if I went up to them and be like, yeah, I want to be a sheikh. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they would react the same way, and they wouldn't like it. No, right? especially my dad. So it was very interesting, right? Because he was so set on it. But again, changes. So as the show progresses and as he, goes through his daily life and the amount of time he spends with Lee Dae-hee's character, who I absolutely love, you see him to start to kind of, I don't want to say waver, because he still even by like friggin' episode like 12, he was still like,
so, determined.
Yeah, very adamant on becoming a priest, and like all the power to him. That's awesome. What you know what you want to do. That's great, because a lot of people don't. You know what I mean? Us included, right? So
a lot of like internal conflict there, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah,
filled with internal conflict,
mm-hmm.
where everyone is kind of battling something with themselves and trying to just figure out where they are, what they want to do in life, and everything like that.
Yeah, and that's so we're gonna come back to a lot with K-dramas, is that a lot of the characters will not communicate.
No,
there's no communication with anybody, and that's the biggest thing in these shows, is the communication.
I think that's the thing that drives me crazy the most.
Yeah, because
I know it's the key to a lot of things, a lot of relationships, a lot of life events.
It is one of the most important, right? It's one of the most important things. But in these shows, mm-hmm. I find it very close to real life, because that's how people are in real life too. No one wants to communicate, right? Like, and I'm going to use this a lot. Work is probably the worst thing, because you can do you'll do your job, and then the other person's supposed to be doing his job, but because he didn't tell you he didn't do his job, you're screwed over, and you got to pick up the slack now, right? There's no communication. There's always, especially going higher up, right, in the hierarchy, there's less communications from up to bottom, or bottom to up, right? It's and then with relationships, that's what really break down a lot of relationships. You know what I mean? Speaking from experience too, communication is like vital. Like you don't have to be like, you don't have to spill your guts the first week you start dating somebody. You know what I mean? You don't, but by the time you've been together for a year, I hope you know each other well enough that you want to, continue with your relationship.
And disclose certain things.
Right? And so so we'll get back to that, like to with the 100 other shows that we're gonna talk about. That this show specifically is very interesting because of the changes. It's such a major aspect in life in general, right? One of the things that was interesting was when you find out the head of oh my god, so Lee Min-ki is the head of the oh my god, the airplane, oh my god, the airplane group, the T group, something like that. Toei, all you see is Toei everywhere, because it's the way, or the Toei, or whatever. Anyways, so he's the head of T-Road, I think it's T-Road. We'll get back to that. I'll fix that. And then the parent or the sister company to it is Suno Group, which is his his stepsister is the head of that one. And it's very interesting because when throughout the show you're like, oh, they hate each other, and she despises him because he hates her, and you're like, well, why does he hate her? You know what I mean? That's it, right? It's a communication, and it's a miscommunication. You know what I mean? Misunderstanding on both their parts, right? Because he didn't disclose what was wrong with him.
Yeah. Well, not very many people even know that he can't recognize their face. Which
is really good that no one actually noticed that. Yeah. Right.
Everyone thinks that he hates them.
Yeah.
Or doesn't pay much attention.
Yeah, or he's just an a jerk, you know what I mean, and just like ignores him. And so every time you see him walk past her, you know what I mean, and then he has to stop because he realizes, oh wait, excuse me, it's probably, I think he for her, I think it was the way she dresses and the way she walks, right? And he realized that with a lot of them where he notices their walk. So it takes him a second. So he did it with one scene with his mom too, where he walked past her and he's like, oh wait, turn back around. Yeah. And you see how when they resolve the misunderstanding, where she's right, and how much of a change, you know, how it makes a complete 180 because she finally realizes, oh, so he's
really his fault.
and like, oh, he doesn't actually hate me, so I don't have to hate him.
So
and
from like competing with donating to charities who could donate more to then
that was funny.
Then
That was
being
good.
brother and sister again and actually having a decent relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And that was an interesting where he was, you saw that he actually cared about her before she found out, and she was still kind of like, well, what? There was a when
Mr. Kim kind of, they were at the lunch date like with all the other board members,
right? Yeah.
and, like,
Okay.
he just kind of was not very respectful.
Yeah. So he went to their little dinner party that they have, and just told them off. And then when he went over to her house, and An Jae-hyop's character was there, and she hid him, and he's like, oh, you have to, you know what I mean? He's like, where she's like, well, why did you do that? And he's like, well, I'm your brother, I gotta protect you, kind of thing, right? And then she kind of throws her off, and then he hears the dog barking, and it's like, oh, I guess you have someone over. So he's like, oh, okay, you have to introduce me next time. And then, you know, so you're like these little tidbits that he's just like dropping there, and you can see her by her reactions that like, yeah, she likes having the brother, but she's still like, wait, I don't like him, kind of thing, right? So it's so that relationship is really interesting, right? And then the two main characters obviously is a more fascinating aspect to it, because he's very straightforward. Where I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure from my understanding of Korean, it's the proper translation that when we're reading subtitles, right? Where he's like, where he wants to be there when she changes, so he's like, let's sleep together, right? And that was the funniest thing ever, and her reaction to it was even better. And it wasn't like any other drama you'd watch when the guy would be like, let's sleep together, he'd get a smack to the face, right? Whereas in this one, she was just kind of like, oh, I know what you mean, right? So it was very, very interesting to see them. So
I think their entire relationship was very interesting, where it started off as like banter and everything like that, and then it turned into more of a relationship, because he figured out, like, no matter who she turns into, he's still gonna love her, and he still knows who she is.
Yeah. That was interesting when she first changes. When they first sleep, into Kim Min-suk. Oh my god, that was great. That was good.
And the mom walked in.
Oh man,
oh my goodness,
she almost had a heart attack. It was great. And it was interesting because he didn't react to it.
No.
Obviously, because he can't see the face, but obviously he can see the gender change, right? So
it's just even the body change.
Yeah,
you can see like the frame just goes from a feminine figure
to
something a bit more buoyant.
Yeah, well, come on, Kim In-suk has a pretty nice body. Like, he's pretty ripped, and he's probably more ripped now after coming out of the army soon. So that was interesting because he didn't react to it like any other. I know I'm gonna refer to other dramas, right? Any other drama you'd watch, it'd be like, oh my god, no, right? Where he was just like, oh, she actually changed.
Yeah.
This is interesting, right? And even though knowing she turned into a boy, a teenage boy on top of that, that's the funniest thing ever. There was no like, there's no discuss. There was no, excuse me. There's no like awkwardness. There was no. He wasn't. He was mad. He was like he had no reaction. He was just
fascination.
Yeah, right.
It was like, oh, it's actually happened, and it's like I was right.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that's an interesting thing. So every time she would change, he would still know it was her, especially like
From the walk.
Exactly. So he was very, very observant of her walk, and they would every time she would change, especially when he first saw her change into I forgot the actress's name, but she was the mom from Heirs, right? For Lee Min-ho's mom in Heirs. Yeah, she was awesome. So the first time he automatically thought it was her.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole thing with that is like obviously he can't recognize.
Yeah.
But she's also wearing the red dress where
right.
Every time they're supposed to fly together when they do their contract.
Yeah.
You always have to wear a red dress when they're on the plane.
Yeah.
So I think since he couldn't recognize her and she was still female, it's like, oh, it's the same person.
Yeah, exactly. So my question to you actually is, how would you feel since we've been together for over 6 years? Yeah. How would you feel if I changed, right? If once a month I would change into a completely different person. Yeah, randomly.
I think I'd be shocked at first, like what the heck just happened and like why all of a sudden are you changing? And like maybe try and get you to see a doctor. But I think like what are you supposed to do other than like thankfully right now we're working from home. So hey, if you're changing for a week, no one really needs to see you.
That's true. We don't have to see anybody. But okay. But how would you feel, waking up next to this random person? Or if really this random, you're cooking in the kitchen and where I come and hug you, while you're at the stove, how would you feel? You would turn your face and see someone else's, not your husband, right?
Yeah. I think I'd be like, I wouldn't be comfortable with that at first.
Right.
It would take a lot to get used to.
Right.
And like, I feel like once the week was done and I was finally used to the person, you'd go back and I'd be like, oh my God,
right?
what's going on?
And then, but like I would change into a different person, the next month. So it's kind of like, how do you get used, So that was a
get used to the constant reoccurrence, right?
I feel like, I don't know if it was in his advantage to not being able to recognize faces. That way, when the person changed, it was less of an impact, right? Because body-wise, I want to explain this without sounding dirty, but body-wise, it's not like you're staring at my body all day. No. When we speak to each other, we're looking into we make eye contact. We're always talking face to face, right?
So I think the face would be different, and it just
right.
Like, wait, who am I actually talking to right now?
Right. So it's kind of like, especially if you don't change too much, change like your body type changes, right? Because I'm thinner, so if I change into a girl,
man, that'd be awkward.
Right. That'd be funny, actually. That'd be hilarious. Yeah. So that's interesting. That's interesting, and I agree. Like it would take a while. It would take time to get used to, and I think.
But you're the same person inside, so I think
100%.
It's gonna be somewhat similar. I'm still talking to you, and you're still the same personality and same.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mentality. So it's like I'm not talking to someone new.
No, that's the thing, right? So you'll see past that, and you know what I mean. Just it's not the physical aspect of the person that you're really speaking to, right? And I think that's what what he really shows in the show, where it's like whether no matter who she is, he's always going to recognize her, and no matter who she is, she's going to be her. And that's why, like, yeah, sorry, spoilers. I'll put a spoiler alert at the beginning of the episodes. Each episode was when she turned into the older man.
Oh yeah, that
right?
was kind of sad.
That was really sad. And she couldn't change,
Yeah.
right? She wasn't changing back like usual. So even when she wouldn't change back, and she was trying to avoid him because she didn't want him to see her like that. So if God forbid she would die, you know, she'd die as a different person, right? And she didn't want him to see that. She didn't want to put him through that.
I feel like though in that scenario she was in the wrong. Like at this point he had accepted her for every form that she's taken. And I think that she was supposed to have someone accept her and so that could teach her how to accept herself. And like he was the person that did it.
Right.
And it helped her. So like when she avoided him for what, almost a month or something?
Oh yeah, I think so.
It was a while.
Yeah.
And then finally when they got together and he forced her into the car to talk.
Yeah.
It was like 5 minutes later she was changing, and it's like if you would have just accepted it, maybe.
Yeah. And I think that's like the overall the most important aspect of change is accepting it. Yes. And I think that's what really, I think that was what triggered her in the end to finally change after that little while. I think that's what that is what helps you move forward, right? So no matter what change you go through, you have to accept that. You have to accept that change, right? Whether you broke up with somebody, right, and that person's not in your life anymore, and you have to live your life a different way now, right? You have to accept that fact, right? You cannot deny the fact that things have changed, and that person's not going to be there anymore, right? So you have to accept that before you can actually move forward, right? With work is not going to get, you know what I mean? If things change, like when I was working at the library, that was the biggest thing where for me anyways, it was like, I knew like how things were going to work anyways afterwards when we got all automated and all that stuff. I knew how it was going to turn out. So I was like, yeah, okay.
But you worked with a lot of older women who didn't like...
A lot of older women, a lot of older men, a lot of like people around my age. Like I was saying earlier, like it didn't matter what age they were. There were people that were against it. Yeah. It was a lot of it had to do with losing jobs and whatnot. But the union made sure that no one lost their jobs, right? Granted, and I'm not gonna get into it because I don't know if I should be talking about it on air. But there was a lot of different things, but no one lost their jobs. Yeah. Right. No, but that's where people needed to, before everything that happened, they needed to accept that this, no matter how much they protest, no matter how much they want to fight it, change is bound to happen.
Whether it's good or bad, it's going to happen.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And that's the major thing is like in life, whether you like it or not, things change. Shit happens. You have to accept that to be able to move forward. And once you accept that, you can move forward and either fix it if it's shit or continue with it and enjoy it if it's good. You know what I mean?
I think that was like the whole premise of this show.
Yeah.
Like change, acceptance, and just learning to love yourself.
Yeah.
Like just be who you're supposed to be. And if you have to, like, her best friend, the priest, if you have to give something up. Yeah. Unfortunately, like, your heart's in the right place, but you also found something else that you wanted just as much. Yeah, and that was really cool because you saw him struggle
right? A lot, because he really was really adamant on becoming a priest, and then he started to want to be, you know, spend more time with her, right?
Yeah.
With Lee Dae-hye's character.
And be better.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
he was already a great character.
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah.
He wanted to be better for her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like always be there for her.
Exactly. And that was really cool. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what really intrigued me about this show. Was the themes within this show, and their portrayal of it. Right, it was really good. Obviously, there's a lot of cultural differences, right? From the Korean culture to the Canadian, North American culture, to our Arab, background culture, right? There's a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities, right? A lot of it change is beyond. Yeah, exactly. It's inevitable. It's beyond culture. It's beyond race. It's beyond gender. It's beyond that. Change is change. No matter what, you cannot stop change, right?
Exactly.
It's the only way to move forward, and there's no moving backwards. There's not.
No, you're looking past. You're just holding yourself back.
Exactly, and that's what it is. You'll never move back. You'll just stay in place.
Yeah.
You're right. While everything else is moving forward.
Gets you nowhere.
Exactly, and that's what I loved about the show, was they really showed that, and they really showed how the more you accept change, the more you'll continue on the right path.
Yeah.
Right.
So, what's your overall opinion about the show?
Watch it.
Do you think it ended well? Do you think it... Okay, let's rephrase that. Do you think it closed off the show properly? Because I know some shows, a lot of North American shows kind of just leave you hanging and like you kind of want more. But with Korean shows, because a lot of it's one season, do you think this show ended properly? Like although you probably wanted more, do you think you had, like, it was a good place to stop?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I like about a lot of the Korean dramas, is that it is one season. There's other ones that are 2 seasons. The Korean remake of Suits, they just started their 2nd season. They're on their 2nd season now.
Say hello to my 20s.
Say hello to my 20s. Yeah, so
hopefully 4th season, please.
I don't even know where 3rd season is.
Oh, the 3rd season? Okay, sorry.
Right? They're on the.
Okay,
I don't know. They can.
Season.
They can do a 3rd season, which would be amazing, because it was such a great show.
Yeah.
Let's Eat. Yeah. They have 3 seasons of Let's Eat. There's quite a few of them that have multiple seasons. But Strangers. That's not a show I haven't watched yet, but it looks really good, and they're on there. They just started their 2nd season as well. But what's great about it, like most of these dramas, especially like the rom-com dramas, some of the action dramas, like a lot of the action rom-com dramas, which is really great, are 1 season, and they what's great is they're hour-long episodes, not the 45-minute BS that we have here in North America. 35-minute BS. So they have the hour-long episodes where you can actually enjoy the entire story without them rushing through it. Granted, there are some shows that kind of some shows actually were supposed to be 16 episodes. They got dropped down to 12, so they rush a bit towards the end, but that's okay. That happens. It's the ratings. It's television. Like, if you're not getting high enough ratings, or if your ratings are absolute garbage, they're gonna cut you off anyway. So it's like, I completely understand, and it sucks because some shows deserve more, but sometimes they're so underrated that people don't even watch them until years later, and then they'll get a cult following, right? But the 16 episodes is great. 20 episodes, I think with the Beauty Inside, I think it was a great I think 16 episodes was great. I think it was 16 episodes. Was it 16 episodes? Whatever length it was, I think it was perfect for it. I think it was great. What's I like is not a lot of filler, which is what's great about the K-dramas, is that they don't really throw in like a filler episode unless if there's a filler episode in the K-dramas you're watching, that's you did something wrong there. You know, there are filler scenes throughout the show. Obviously, it's for runtime, right? But if filler episodes, like, you know, Dragon Ball Z would have, you know, Goku charging for the whole episode, and then the next episode as well, and then an episode as well, right? Granted, I watched all of them 10 times because it's amazing, but filler episodes. The K-dramas are great because they won't, you know, you won't always get those filler. You'll rarely get those episodes. And this show was like that, where they had like filler scenes here and there, but nothing. Yeah, exactly. Nothing.
Like episode of nothing.
Exactly. So it was nothing terrible. So I think it was a great runtime.
Yeah.
I think they really got through the overall themes of the show.
Yeah.
The acting was phenomenal.
Yes.
The cinematography is always good. They always put, you know what I mean, like most of these the bigger shows, they put a lot of money into it anyway, so it looks really great. Granted, the one thing they need on these K-dramas is continuity editor, or what are they called, the continuity script advisor, someone who's on set and who's making sure that when they're switching angles for the scene, that the person's not, instead of having their hand on their chest, they have it down on their hip. You know what I mean? Like, it stays in this place.
I kind of enjoy those little things.
It's hilarious. Yeah. But some of them are so evident, and I'm like, oh man, really? It's okay. Like, it doesn't take anything away from the show at all.
If you notice it just makes it funny.
It does, yeah. And like, I'm very detail oriented, so like, especially with shows, with being a writer, I'm very detail oriented with that. So it's like, damn it, you could have just fixed that hand. But other than that, it was great. The script was great. The script was really, the story was really, really great.
It was really well done. Really well acted.
Yeah. Lee Min-ki and his assistant were probably like the best banter.
The banter was incredible.
What's his name? Lee Terry. He's great. Oh man, he was so good. And I'm sorry if I butchered these names, but I can only do so much, right? But yeah, I 100% recommend the show. 100% recommend the show. It's yeah, I like it. I think that's it for today. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we covered it pretty well. Any questions? You know, hit us up in the comments.
Find us on Instagram, Koffee and Dramas. Let us know what show you want us to review next, and we'll go into detail.
Yeah, and yeah. So we'll see you guys next time. I am not gonna do the whole subscribe thing, so this is the only time you'll ever hear it. So like and subscribe if you like it. If you don't, you don't. If you do, you do.